I want you to imagine one of your goals, one of your objectives. Simple task. So let me ask you a question. Do you really think you're capable? Now you're wondering if you're really going to make it. You look up, you feel the pressure, and this room is getting smaller, darker, closing around you, and now you're trapped, motionless. And if so, you can't reach your goal anymore, can you? Great feeling, huh? So, let's say that you got invited to a TED Talk. You're super excited. You begin to imagine the likelihoods, but all you can think about it is how you're going to fail. How are you going to fall on the floor, forget your script, how this is going to be the worst day of your entire life. Naturally, you want to postpone the event. You don't want the day to come. But also, you can't think of anything else. Awesome, again. So this is how anxiety looks like. And I have another question for you. If you had to deal with those feelings day per day, who would you ask help for? Your friends? Your family, maybe? And what about an artist? A painter? Imagine Van Gogh sitting on a therapist's chair with his cutting ear, giving you advices of how to stay calm. Imagine Van Gogh, who could barely separate his hallucinations from reality, saying, "Oh man, you got generalized anxiety disorder." How would you feel? So, this is what I heard this year from my psychiatrist, because I was facing those struggles, those hypothetical situations. It were a reality for me. Why do you think I'm not using high heels? Because literally, I think of 27 ways possible to fall on the floor with those. Also, I'm not here to say that you need to go look help on the arts from Van Gogh, Picasso, or Monet. I'm here to say that art can be a way of calming anxiety, but also transforming in something really good. So first, let's understand how this problem works. Imagine a football game. The team preparation consists on watching their last games, observing what has gone right and wrong. Based on that, they prepare the next moves. This is how your brain works. However, someone with anxiety focuses only on the mistake. They take this fault, this mistake, and apply as a condition to their life, as their fate. And this is how the future is always agonizing us, because it seems programmed to fail. It's your fate, your destiny. You have fear of the future and guilt of the past. And this creates a gap in the present, in the moment. You can't acknowledge the real feelings of it because you're not present. Yeah, it looks a mess. But what's important is how to restructure those feelings and transform it to something good, useful. So, I have already said that I have anxiety. Funny way of introducing someone, I'm sorry, I do have a name. My name is Maria. But I want to introduce myself as an artist, a painter. This year was very important to me because I got invited to expose my artworks outside school in a public event. It was not also my first solo exhibition, but also my very first. I was thrilled, excited. However, I was freaking out. Usually, one of my paintings takes 1 month to be produced. But in this special case, I had less than 20 days to produce 3 artworks. Also, I was overloaded with school assignments and last year exams, yet it was a huge opportunity for my career. However, my, self-confidence was tiny, 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 and my expectations were up in the sky. It was a moment of anxiety and crisis and tension. However, something different happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here in front of you having this talk. So, I knew anxiety was coming because I was beginning to calculate it, or I may say miscalculated, the chances to fail. My anxious brain was working like this. In order to imagine my exhibition going wrong, first I had to imagine the exhibition in my mind. Because only after I imagined this imaginary scenario in my mind, only then I could apply all the disasters I wanted in it. So I began to create my imaginary exhibition, and it was something like this. So, can I say that the use of colors are awful? Can I say that those 2 paintings doesn't integrate between one another? No, I can't say anything because I haven't created anything to insert in my imaginary exhibition. How can I judge and say that they're good or bad? I can't, they're all blank paintings. Then I realized that I could only worry after I created something. And for that, I need to lay out my ideas, choose the materials, and actually paint. A process were needed. So each step needed for me very attention because they were equally important to it. So this was very important because it kept me aware of the present. I need to be there, connected to my work. So as I'm talking about my paintings, I need to specify them. They are paintings, artworks that need handmade production. And this was very, very important because once I touched the materials, I felt the texture of those paintings. I was forced to acknowledge the real moments and the real feelings of it. Also, when you create this special and meaningful contact with your work, it feels like you're shaping your result. You're free to make mistakes because you were in the position of repairing those with your own hands, literally. So, you are, how can I say this, very in the control of the situation. You feel that your self-confidence is increasing. And this is healing for someone with anxiety. I didn't need Van Gogh as a shrink. I needed the artistic process as therapy. And this art therapy is already being used in Canada, Brazil, USA for anxious kids. This was art for anxiety. But now part 2, what about anxiety for art? So wait, I have just given you a problem to face. I have just described awful situations. And now I'm saying that this problem can be something useful, good, for art? How dare I free this monster of 7 heads after I just given you the solution for the problem? How dare this young lady say this? Now it feels that I have the job to convince you about that. So keep up. As we're talking about the importance of the artistic process, let's focus on the first step, the workshop of ideas. When you have to pass the mental image to the paintings, to the canvas, is the moment when you have mindfulness. But also, let's not forget that I have an anxious brain working. So back to the first step of anxiety. Mentalize the situation. So while I was analyzing all the hypothetical possibilities for my exhibition, for example, some kids spilling juice on one of the paintings, or some disgusting critics say that I used wrong the colors. First, I asked on what the kid was spilling his juice, which colors were wrong, and then I faced ideas that neither did I knew that it existed, because when I asked myself which mistake I would make that will ruin my entire night, first I asked, which mistake? Where did I do wrong? So this mistake I did when I was painting the background, which background? What was in it? Did I miss some details? Which details? And then I could see all my ideas stamped on the canvas on my imaginary exhibition. So it was the creativity of my primitive thought showing up. Anxiety was useful to expand my creativity or to discover what was already there. So I said that it was my job to convince you. So what's better than showing my paintings to you? Let them speak for themselves so you can make your own reflection. So I want to do a comparison between my old paintings before this whole mess of anxiety and exhibition proposal and my new paintings. So the first is the old ones. So I hope you can all identify that this is an uterus, even you boys, because basic biology. So my objective was to be realistic. For example, the flowers. They have adequate shapes, adequate colors. You could see them in your garden, for example. So the second one. I made this painting based on the drawings of Louise Bourgeois, a feminine artist. Yeah, I know it's a shocking image, woman inside a house, not going to be sorry about it, but as you can see, for example, the colors that I use, the skin, the breast, the whole body fit in the portrayal of a real woman. This can be realistic in some sort of way. So, what those two paintings have similar? I want them to be realistic in the portrayal of both, because I searched for inspiration of what surrounded me, things purely existent. It was a superficial observation. But now I am very excited to show you my new paintings from my exhibition. And I want to start with this. Again, I continue to portray feminine figures, but they are unique. The perception of them is unique. The color used is free. They have unique traces. Why yellow circles? So they are very unique, very far from reality, because seriously, if one of you said to me that you have already seen a woman with pink or red skin color on the street, I would say that you're really heavy drugs. So please stop, don't do drugs, kids. So, moving on, I want to do an explanation on the other painting because it seems necessary. So I want to portray plants or flowers, and also I want to escape from reality. So how would I bond those two things? I went back to my anxiety feelings because this was what I did. I think, oh, I am anxious, and those two things can be strange, but how strange? How this can sound strange, and in which ways, in which forms? And then I began to have an ideas, and the result was that. Yeah, sorry. As you can see, there is a plant and roots, but what I want to show up here is that, for example, those circles. Why have I portrayed those? Or for example, why did I put those colors separated and then mix them up? Why? I want to say something to you. Ideas come before, explanations later. This was on my subconscious, so neither I can explain this to you. So I leave the interpretation to you because it is supposed to be like that. I can explain what's in my interior of my mind. So when my exhibition finally came, I was very proud of the result because I have built a very strong bond with the process, with the artistic process. When I observed the mistakes, they seem pretty natural. I can even call it mistakes because they were part of the process. They were very natural to me. Art and anxiety were two things very important to me, also to overcome anxiety. But what about someone who can paint, who can draw? Are they lost? No, because everything has a process. For example, a math test. How can you expect good results if you haven't passed through a process? You need to study the subject, make exercises, and then revise. That means step by step, a process. A ballet dance, for example, you need to be perfect in every move of your choreography. Steps and process. Once you find a process that you're passionate about, you can have good results and you can overcome anxiety and create extraordinary things. In my case, I use art and anxiety and art because they don't only work together, but they are also a simple case of mutualism. And thank you.